Oh, there we go. So I'm sure Tank gave you guys some good enlightenment. You know, tomorrow actually wraps up 8 straight weeks of really one-on-one work with him and his crew, really about 3 to 4, 5 days a week. We get them usually at certain phases. You know, the first 2 weeks when they started, we were actually on the road recruiting, so we weren't able to actually touch them until week 3. And then we work with them usually a couple times a week. It may be a 15-minute session here. Sometimes we get 45 minutes with them. It's all kind of predicated by NCAA rules, but I think it's been very apparent from the first contact we had with them, the 3rd week of winter conditioning, to where we were a year ago. Just hopefully the gain that we've had overall. Obviously, you got new guys coming in that are going to go through transition, but just Tank and his staff and the overall effect they've had on our program has been overwhelming. It's fun to see that kind of follow through right now. And then we'll give them a week off here during spring break. Allows them to go be them. We get a chance to relax a little bit, and then we'll come back in and jump straight 5 weeks into spring ball. So very excited where we're at. For the most part, overly healthy. Just a few guys that will really be limited for really all of spring ball. Kind of wait until we get through a couple doctor's appointments today. Final clearance yesterday. CJ Hart got cleared for full participation. Jordan Slaughter got cleared. So there's some guys here right before we take off for spring break, and then when we return, that we'll see exactly where they are, and I'll kind of give you an update after that first practice. So with that, you know, a couple things, house cleaning items. You know, obviously a lot of you saw the release on Ben earlier today. You know, just hopefully everybody respects and understands where we're coming from there. Him and his family in our prayers and our thoughts. So obviously a huge part of what we've been able to do here with the tight end room and especially those guys have been you know, working with a variety of our coaches. Barry Lunny, the ironic part of that is when I hired Lunny, didn't really have any idea obviously that this was going to be going on, but Barry's coached tight ends for me 5 years in my previous spot, so very well versed in a tight end position, so he can be a huge benefit to that room. The NCAA allows me to have a temporary replacement for Ben. So Greg Froelich, who has worked for us, you know, since I got here, coming from Michigan, worked with a special teams analyst. Fro has been able to step into that role and really be counted as one of our 10 assistants now, so we can work with our guys literally on the field, in the meeting rooms, and everything in between. So he's been able to step up to that challenge, and we'll just kind of work our way through this as Ben gets more and more news and the updates that he gets will continually affect where we're at. But for the most part, we're just kind of working under the now, and until we gather more information, Fro will be able to step into that role and handle that as we speak. Very excited for our guys tomorrow, Pro Day. I know a lot of you may not be able to make it just because obviously the timing of the Illinois men's basketball tournament and the league going on was absolutely awesome to be over in State Farm for that championship a week ago Sunday, and just an awesome thing to witness. I see every day Coach Underwood and his staff how much work they put in, and see them get rewarded in that way was a pretty awesome environment. Wish them the best of luck as we move forward. And then on a personal note, 10 years ago today, my wife agreed to say I do to me, and what she does every day for our kids, for me, for our family, really the engagement she has in the community here with our kids being in a couple different schools and with our coaches' wives and administration. She's a true partner that's been unbelievable for me. So I wish her a happy anniversary here on year 10, and hopefully we'll celebrate here sometime next week in spring break. So with that, I'll open up for some easy questions.
Coach, going back to Coach Miller, just how hard is that? Does that perspective, you know, we went through some perspective years here with COVID. Was this another reminder? This is football. It's not life or death.
I caught you cut out there last second, Bob. You said what? This is football?
Yeah, this is football. Does this add perspective for you?
Yes. Yeah. Obviously, Tough thing for me. Ben actually lives right by me, so I really drive by his house every day, and I can't tell you how many times last spring and summer, this fall, I'll go by and I'll see him out in his yards with his kids, give him a honk, occasionally stop by, say hello. And you know, when he first came to me with this, there's that moment where you obviously have immediate concern and for his well-being, but then, you know, as a father now, realize the effect it has on children and on his wife, and our wives have become all of our wives, right? All the coaches' wives in our program. We have, you know, about 50 people that work here in the building, the Smith Center, and the effect that Ben and Megan have had in our building has been off the charts. So yeah, it's a bigger picture than that, right? And also the effect on our players. Like I could tell when I told our players the first time, I could see the reactions in their faces, and I knew Ben always, as a special teams coordinator, you know, as a tight end, you affect the tight end room and work with the offensive players. As a special teams coordinator, you literally touch the entire roster, right? So Ben has stood in front of the team. One of the unique positions you have as a special teams coordinator is you literally touch every player in this program, and he stands in front of them and gives them direction during every game prep, and his voice, his confidence, his story. I gave the players or the coaches all a chance to address the team before the year started, and I remember just watching their faces when Ben told his story and what he's accomplished, and then off the field what he stands for. For me as a father of two young girls, to see what he's raised and the children that he's developed and the relationship he has with his wife, it's truly a great man that represents a lot of great things. So we're definitely thinking of him on a daily basis.
Have you ever had to deal with anything like this before?
Yeah, in certain magnitudes. Unfortunately, in my job, right, in my profession,
Right.
I deal with a lot of coaches and players. Obviously, Bob, you went through a health issue, right? Like, unfortunately, this is part of the thing the world gives us today, and I'm grateful. You know, I learned it firsthand when I was in college when my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer, and she's a survivor to this day since 1990. The good news is, right, the medicine and technology of today's world is awesome, and Josh Whitman has been unbelievable. Carl Healthcare, all the people involved have been unbelievable working with Ben and his family and getting the best possible treatment and care and answers as possible. So it's been a blessing to be here as well with him.
Last thing, Coach, I know you got a busy schedule. Are you going to take any of the basketball here in the next couple of weeks or not?
You know, Brad and I started with me in season, and now him in season. We exchanged either phone calls or texts, and I sat right next to him. We had a head coaches meeting the day after the championship game on Sunday, and I sat right next to him on Monday for a couple hours, and you know, we exchanged stories and congratulations to him then. But I shot him a text earlier today just because I usually try to get to him the day before the game, and I believe I'd be over there. I know I'd be over there if it wasn't our pro day here. So unfortunately, I can't be there for that. And then you could say prayers for me as well. I'm taking my two daughters to Disney next week, so I'm tackling that hurdle as a father. We'll see how that plays out. I know I can handle 120 young men on a field for 2 hours. I don't know if I can handle 2 5 or 4 and 2-year-olds in a theme park for a day. We'll see how that goes.
They're going to love it. Thanks, Coach.
Yep.
I am doing that in May, Brett, so I'll be right there with you, taking some advice.
I will. I guess you set of ears.
Thank you. I wanted to ask you about the center position, because obviously it feels like you got a lot of guards and tackle possibilities. Josh Kreutz obviously is an option there, but who else could compete at that job for you? Yeah,
Alex Pilstrom will work at center, Kreutz, Jordan Slaughter, and then we'll also got on the docket like 3 guys that have snapped the ball during either their high school career or college career. We have 5 quarterbacks coming in, so I'd like to have 5 centers to work pre-snap practice and work with. We're currently actively pursuing that particular position in the portal world as well. So it's kind of a work in progress, but for sure, Hill, Jordan, and Kreutz, I think would be safe to say we get the majority of the reps. And then also Josh Poor will get reps in there at center as well.
And then obviously it's big shoes to fill with Kirby Joseph, given the buzz he has right now. But what about that free safety position? I mean, Quan, I know is capable of playing there, but played so well at nickel. Who do you have kind of competing at that spot?
Yeah, it will. It'll be kind of an interesting, obviously Kendall Smith was a guy that jumped into the portal last year, at the end of the season. And when he went in, I knew that if Kirby wasn't a factor, that might change his opinion. So let him explore the portal world. And as long as he was back with us before we started classes, I was going to be in agreement with that. So he came back with us, and that definitely is an experienced body that's been incredible, good player for us on special teams. And if you think about Kirby, when he really came to the forefront for us was off of the plays he made early last year in the special teams world. So yeah, Kirby, Quan, Sidney Brown is really, I think I heard Tank mention it, right? We paired him and Isaiah Williams up against each other the other day. And he took on Spoon. Isaiah took on Spoon earlier in the year or in the week. We put him up against Aiden Lawfrey, who's been probably one of the most not surprising. I knew he was going to be good, but he is quick as a hiccup, man. Him and Isaiah battled out the week before, so we put him and Sid against one another. I think a lot of people probably may have, if there was betting legal in NCAA, which it's not, they probably would have been putting some money down on Isaiah, but Sid won the head-to-head, and it just shows the competition value in that kid is off the charts. He just, when he's put it in a moment of competition, he's second to none. So I'm excited to see where Sidney can go now with the departure of Kirby. Like, we're going to lean on him even more.
Thanks, Brett.
I think Prince Green too, Jeremy. Prince Green, we moved Keontae Curry into the safety position, into that star, kind of that Quan role. So yeah, we've got a number of guys that we're looking at kind of finding out exactly where they are, and have dabbled with the idea that Talon Letzi as well would be a guy that, could bring some safety value as well as his corner value.
Thanks.
Yep.
Brett, for a couple of weeks, I've wanted to ask you about, there are a couple of potential rule changes that were supposed to be bandied about by the rules committee last month. They both kind of involve time. One is just kind of going to the NFL model of what happens after first down, where the clock doesn't stop, and the other being treating incomplete passes like a player running out of bounds. In order to, I guess, to speed up the game, or maybe you can give me more of an insight as to why that's being talked about. But I was wondering if what you had your thoughts on, if that's good or bad for the game overall as we head forward.
Yeah, man, I think, the clock is a very hot topic, right? Like, and really, the emergence of tempo offenses came as a byproduct of a rule change that was unintended, right? It was, they basically were trying to make the efficiency of officiating crews be more in line. That's why the 40-second clock was put out there, right? That's why that was evolved, and then that introduced the tempo offenses and everything that went into it. So ever since there's been that battle between clocks and clock management and hurry up offenses, and obviously teams that throw the ball 60, 70 times a game have a lot more clock stoppage and really add to the length of the game. So there's been this constant back and forth. When I was a head coach at both Wisconsin and Arkansas, I was on a rules committee for a number of years that really took into account some of those rules as they play. I think that the uniform thing that everybody look at the NFL, right? You probably just finished the playoffs and the Super Bowl with one of the most exciting, watched, engaged games that's ever been in the history of the game. And it's always been a popular game. And the thing that the NFL has been able to master is all of those games are right around that 3-hour mark, right? It's just, they plan around it. TVs can plan around it. The functionality of it for revenue and what that brings, and they're able to lock into that time frame is worth a great amount of value to the people that are important. And that's what I think is driving this more than anything. We have games that go 2 hours and 40 minutes on the short end, right, to games that go 4 hours or longer, and they can't set TV up in that time frame. So I think the number one driving force is to get that game to be somewhere between a 3-hour to 3-hour and 15-minute game, so that they can guarantee all those games kind of fall into that window. That's probably what's driving it more than anything.
And the follow-up, I wanted to ask you a scheduling question, which is, when I was covering the SEC way back when, they had these Thursday night games. You seem to have embraced the Thursday and the Friday games whenever they want to put you in a primetime spot. When I was covering the SEC, there were schools that okay, we get to play the Thursday night game, but so-and-so school doesn't have to. What's the deal with that? You seem to have embraced that idea as the head coach at Illinois. I just wanted to get your thoughts.
Well, first, if anybody would, and you guys obviously know me well now after a year, I'm probably a traditionalist, right? I would prefer every game to be Saturday at 1:00, no question asked. I think, and I say that Saturday, 1:00, 3:00, 6:00, I love Saturday games. I don't like to interfere with high school football, right? I'm a big believer in Illinois high school football. It's the breeding grounds of what we are as college football and vice versa. Friday, I just really believe, right? High school football played on Fridays, college football played on Saturdays, and NFL football played on Sundays. That's what the weekend is. And it obviously has been that way for a long time. But with the emergence of Thursday night games, I've really haven't played many. My first one ever was opening league play my year with Russell. Nebraska was coming into the league. They wanted to make it a big deal, so they made it a Thursday night game in Madison, and it ended up being obviously a very prominent game. It wasn't really a close game, but it was a prominent game that showcased, in my opinion, the value of that Thursday night game. Now, that was at the beginning of the year, right? So it added a little nuance to it. In today's world, right, where we're at now, and really as coaches, we don't have much say. The conference aligns these things and puts these things in play as they lay out. Really, this year, probably unlike any other year that you've seen, they changed the schedule later than is ever. It's unprecedented, right? When they changed this schedule, we went from playing Wisconsin at the beginning of the year to now playing them in the middle of the year. I really, when I got here, we looked at moving Wyoming to week 0, really to try and get a game before we played that opener, because you usually make your biggest amount of gains from week 1 to week 2. So there's a lot of different things that went into it, and then they flipped the schedule on us. So when the Thursday night opportunity became real against Chattanooga, that was something that, I'm like, absolutely, if that allows us during that coming out of a bye week, it kind of gives us another little mini bye week in the middle of it. That was there. And then, the Indiana game on Friday night, we had no say in that. That was given to us from the conference. There's nothing we could do about it. So I know that for some fans, it's not exactly what they want. And believe me, I hear you loud and clear. But I think in the world that we're in now, and especially in a situation when here at Illinois, that we're trying to, have as much national exposure as we can to get that Thursday night time slot of national exposure. Now, when we got this place, hopefully in a short fashion, a filled Memorial Stadium with people from the first row to the top row and everywhere in between, I think then that's a different perspective that we got to conquer that when it happens.
Thank you, Brett. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yep.
Hey, Brett, I don't think we've talked to you since Palcho announced his return, but how does that change what you guys have going forward on the offensive line? What's that do for you to have a 6-year guy with 3,300 snaps under his belt?
Yeah. He probably undoubtedly, right, unless something happens, will, be the all-time leader in NCAA history of career starts, right? He's already at the threshold and where he'll go now. When I'm one of those guys, I probably drive these people around here absolutely freaking crazy. I just don't take no for an answer, right? And I just believe in always trying to find the power of where we can go. So a year ago with Jake Hansen, right, I just kept saying, what can we do? What can we do? What can we do? We get the waiver and get him through. Casey Washington, they said no, right? I just said why, and they couldn't tell me why exactly. They gave me a good reason. I'm like, let's go. And then Benji and the compliance office does a great job. I think Josh, with his lawyer background, there's just this emphasis on trying to maximize the rules. So Marquez said something to me, about, Coach, during COVID, I only played in 4 games, and I was like, ding, 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 ding. So we went to it, and when we saw the processing of Marquez, that's when I knew that, hey, let's check our entire roster. And I went to Palcho 2 days before he's going to play in the All-Star game, right? And I said, hey, are you sitting down, my friends? And he's like, as you can imagine what he would say, right? I can't say what he's going to say. He's like, yeah, Coach. And I'm like, all right, here's the deal. I go, I know you're playing in an All-Star game Sunday, but we basically may have an opportunity to get you to come back for an additional year. What would be your thoughts? And he was very emphatic about, let's explore the options. Call me on Monday. I'm going to play in this game because, I wasn't sure at that point it was going to get approved. And then when the NCAA came back and said that it is approved, we went through a whole process to get him back. And when I let him talk to the team, by the team's reaction, it was very, very positive. And to bring a guy with that much value and experience into the offensive line in particular, one that was really a group that we lost a lot of really good players out of, but more importantly to the offense side of the ball and the team in general. When Palcho talks, people listen, right? And he's a guy that brings a lot of value besides what he brings on the field. So I'm excited. I don't know exactly, we're going to start him out at tackle. Him and JP will start off at tackle spot in that first week, but we'll probably rotate him in at guard. I know when the NFL comes through, they've asked, kind of where is he at? And I think the best thing you can do is provide value by that he can do both. So very excited to have Palcho join us here in the year ahead.
And you've obviously had a lot to say about Aiden, but for all of your early enrollees, the freshmen, what have your impressions been of them? And has it gone about what you envisioned when you obviously tried to get a few guys in here early?
Joey, a lot of times people think it's all about the physical aspects of it, right? But a lot of it's about how can they handle the adjustment to college mentally, socially, what's their body do? How's their body reacted to, this type of training? And it's been awesome. Again, we've stressed since we've got here, the more early enrollees we can get, the better off we are. And to have as many as we had, on offense, in particular, the running back position, Jordan Anson and Aiden Lawfrey, two different types of running backs that I'm sure will be able to help us sooner than later. Very impressive young men, have developed very, very quickly, very nicely. I would say probably the two guys that have physically changed the most since we've got them of the two of the incoming class, both on respective sides of the ball. They kind of play mirror position. Owen Anderson and Jared Beatty have just been unbelievable. I think both of them have put on close to, Tank will tell you the numbers, but somewhere between 9 to 10 pounds of pure muscle, lean mass, not just weight. I think JB's up, Jared might be up 15 pounds, but like in an 8-week window, that's it's nothing for me. But for them, it's a really good thing. And they've really, they looked the part, they talked the part, they walked the part. I'm excited to see them put on pads. A guy like Elijah McCantos, unfortunately, he isn't going to be able to go through spring, but he came in, we saw that he needed shoulder surgery. He had surgery as early as we possibly could. And McCantos has been in here every day. He's the happiest guy in a sling I've ever seen, just walking around campus. But he's going to at least mentally going to be able to go through the things that we're going through right now. Malachi Hood, another great addition. Sean Miller has been very impressive. Wideouts maybe don't have the weight gain, but Sean Miller's a very impressive player, a guy that we're really excited to be in. I know Tank talked about the two Jude College offensive linemen, but both of those guys are full qualifiers, right? So they're not the traditional junior college player that's coming in with a lot of anxiety about what he's going to do academically. They both, Isaiah has been, he's been as impressive as I've been around since I was able to first start recruiting him. And Isaiah Adams, right? We went after him. He was literally the first player I went and saw during our first bye week. He's the first kid that I went and visited on during that first bye week, and to come full circle to get him there on signing date, and it was a big deal. All right, so I'm very excited about those two guys. Tommy DeVito has been awesome. T. Edwards from Northwestern has been a huge asset. We haven't put on the pads yet, but he's been a great addition. And then there's been a number of walk-on kids that have been great additions as well. All in all, we brought in almost 20 kids new to the program this semester.
And I know Jeremy's got a follow-up, so I'll try to make this quick. But we've heard Isaiah, you mentioned Isaiah Williams a few times, and obviously we saw what he did last year, but has he taken another step, at least physically, forward as he goes into this spring?
Yeah, Isaiah is, physically he's very gifted. He's been, given a lot of great genetics, and the best thing is he's been raised in a way that his motor goes 100 miles an hour. The village that raised him, all of his people have been very, very strong in the work ethic and the attitude and the energy. When him and Sid went against each other yesterday, right? I mean, they were competing, and the thing I love about competition, right, is only one man wins and one we can tie, but they didn't. but I shot them both a text later in the day, and I wanted them to understand, to me, they're the gold standard of what we need, right? They're both at their respective position, but they're both on opposite sides of the ball. When they work, when they talk, when they do things, and they're both different personalities. Sid will talk and kind of, you know, voice himself. Isaiah is strictly about how he does his business, but I know people respond to how they perform in practice. So yeah, both of them, and in particular, Isaiah that you asked about, he'll take a step forward again, and it'll be fun to watch what that growth does.
Thanks, Brett. Really appreciate it.
Yep.
Brett, I just want to ask about Brian Hightower. I know he had a kind of odd fall. How's he doing? What did he go through last fall, and how's he doing now?
You know, Jeremy, it's awesome to build relationships. There's so many more things that are strong right now in our building than they were a year ago, just because of time, right? And knowing each other and being around each other. Has been an impressive kid to me ever since I met him. Knew his story a little bit before I met him, but then to watch it unfold, there was a day last year during fall season where I watched 2 days in a row during look team work where he's going against our defense, providing a look of the opponent we're going to see, and he is absolutely busting his tail, doing everything he can to make our defense better. And I'm like, for a kid to be in that role, in that capacity, and do that, like, speaks volumes to me. So I think this spring, I think he's really connected well with Coach McDonald. Obviously, we had some transition in the wide receiver room, and the guys that have persevered through that have really risen to the challenge. I think Isaiah, Casey, Pat Bryant, but I'm especially excited to watch Hightower. You know, big, athletic, can run. I was very fortunate during the fall. I had Clay Helton come in for a couple days, and Clay was a guy that made reference to when he was watching the guys, and he knew who Hightower was because of the way he was recruited out of high school. So I know that he's got talent, and I'm excited to see that talent hopefully come out on the field this spring.
And then you actually have a normal recruiting cycle with no restrictions. How's that different for you guys, and what's it been like for you guys?
You know, we're constantly evaluating our recruiting and where we're at. I think for us personally here at Illinois, like, it's very clear to me that if in the state here, or really kind of all of our borders, that we kind of, even though it might be outstate, we consider it in-state really. So the St. Louis area, right? The obviously anything in the border of Illinois, but really that Quad City area, you know, maybe up into the Chicago and the northern or the southern parts of Wisconsin, obviously Indiana, the Indianapolis area, as close as it is, Ohio. We're really concentrating on the high school players in that area, right? We think we can literally go toe to toe with anybody in this region that decides to offer them, right? Like, I look at Jared Beatty and Gabe Yakas, right? Two outside linebackers who I coach outside backers in the league. I think they're guys that you potentially look at 3 years down the road, 4 years down, they're going to be NFL type players, right? If you do the right things with them. And we beat SEC schools head to head with them down to the very end, right? And that opened my eyes about what Illinois can do and what we can bring, especially as we begin to, you know, I'm not, you know, parading around and asking for a championship banner with 5 wins, right? But we definitely showed that we're moving in the right direction, and we're not satisfied in any capacity with anything less than a championship. But it showed to me that avenue is there. Right now, I think now we have to really look at the portal, right? Like, how do we accessorize when we can't get a full class of 25 with high school? If it's a 15-10 ratio, if it's 10-5, you know, it's really an interesting time, especially with the evolution of NIL. You know, in the month of December, I literally had 0 discussions about NIL in the class that we signed. When I went back out on the road in January, and discussions since then, almost every discussion you have is about NIL, right? So our Guardian group that has taken a hands-on approach to the NIL world here with the and especially Gridiron Guardians, the guys that will deal with football specific NIL, like, that's a world that's really changing, right? It's changing the dynamics of recruiting in a big way. Literally on a daily basis, it's something we have to deal with. So I'm excited. I think we can literally say that recruiting has changed in year 2 from year 1 from us, because people saw the change, right? And there are kids in state that took the leap of faith, guys like Jordan Anderson and you know, Aiden Lawfrey and Jared Beatty, Malachi Hood, Ian Pugh, who decommitted from another, a team that was in the college football playoffs, right? And then we go out and in a transfer world where kids are coming in from other Big Ten schools, and we're beating, in theory, maybe on grad transfers and portal transfers on guys that have a lot stronger winning tradition than us right now. So I like where we're going. We haven't really pushed the envelope with this class right now. I would like, for our first wave of commitments in this 23 class to kind of set the standard for what we expect. And that's what we've been working to.
Thanks, Brett. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Let's go cap on to Disney.
Happy anniversary, Brett.
Thank you. I'll see you guys in a week.